ProRodeo has had another great year. From coast to coast, rodeo is prospering. More people are going to rodeos. Rodeo committees are helping support more worthy causes. The contestants are seeing bigger payouts, and the general buzz about rodeo has never been better. It is with this background that we are excited to welcome 9 inductees into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. From a legendary bull, to a hotel and casino operator who loves rodeo, to a woman who dedicated her life behind the scenes, a rodeo funny man, a veterinarian, and some of the sport's best ever competitors. We welcome them all into the class of 2007. Now, please welcome the chairman of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association Board of Directors, Keith Martin.
Thank you and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful day to honor the careers and lives and celebrate their lives of the great 9, whose contributions both in and out of the arena have been far above and beyond. The good Lord did give us a beautiful day. I'd like to ask at this time any of our past inductees into the Hall of Fame to please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all very much. Very much a part of our legacy and our history. Also at this time, I'd like to ask our great sponsors of our sport of rodeo and our hall to please stand. And let's give them a round of applause. Come on, guys. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to introduce and ask the Board of Trustees of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame to please stand and be recognized. Give them a round. Thank you all. Also, our PRCA Board of Directors that are here today, please stand and be recognized. Thank you all. You know, this is a big deal. Our association is over 70 years old, and we have over 7,000 members. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Master of Ceremonies for today, Mr. Boyd Polhamus. Thank you very much.
There is no greater honor that can be bestowed upon any member of our sport and our association than to be enshrined permanently, inducted into this Hall of Fame. It speaks volumes not only about the way they may have competed or the support they may have given our industry behind the scenes, it speaks about the person themselves. If you want to be humbled, as one of our inductees told me earlier today, just walk through that hall and see who is in there. It's absolutely amazing. You're going to meet 9 very special people that represent a wide variety of our sport, and to help the induction process go along more smoothly and more beautifully, it's an honor for me to introduce to you right now Miss Rodeo America. This is Ashley Andrews, formerly from North Dakota. Now she belongs to all of us and she'll be assisting. So let's begin with the inductions. The class of 2007, inducted this year in the saddle bronc riding category, Bud Munroe.
Watch this guy.
It was an amazing 12 consecutive trips to the National Finals Rodeo. Bud Munroe had a streak. A streak is one of the most respected saddle bronc riders of all time. Bud competed in bareback and saddle bronc during his 4 years at Montana State. He was a rodeo star and student picking up a degree in agricultural business. He won the Intercollegiate Rodeo Saddle Bronc title in 1975. His team captured the NIRA Team Championship that year too.
Hey, here we go, Bob, with our first man up.
Here's Bud Munroe.
From 1977 through 1988, it was Bud Munroe and more Bud Munroe on the pro circuit and at the National Finals Rodeo. Bud had 8 finishes among the top 5 in the world. He was second in 1978 and 1980.
It's right. And old Slim Munroe from Billings, Montana. This guy's runner up to the world title. How, I don't know. He's going to have a gold buckle, and it's not going to be long.
It was in 1986 that Bud Munroe blew open the saddle bronc door. He claimed the gold buckle and became the first saddle bronc rider to earn $100,000 in a single season.
He's 34 years old. He's placed second many times. This is his first world champion. Bud Munroe, congratulations. You are the saddle bronc champion of the world. How do you like that?
I don't know. It hasn't sunk in yet. I'm just numb. Well, he's a little horse, belongs to Reg Kessler, throwing a lot of people off over the years. And a horse took a little run at me, and it was kind of loose and cool, and I just scrambled and tried to make as good as I could, Bob.
You were loose and cool indeed. What are you going to do right now after you leave this interview?
I'm running out to help my wife in the barrel race.
Uh-oh. He's getting ready for the barrel racing.
Bud Munroe has served the PRCA in many ways. Saddle bronc director, grievance committee member, and for more than 20 years, the PRCA Properties Board. He's also a part of rodeo from the committee side, serving on the Heart of Texas Rodeo Committee. For all his involvement in rodeo, but most especially his incredible record as a saddle bronc rider, we honor Dan O. Bud Munroe as a Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame inductee.
Being inducted in your Sports Hall of Fame is the ultimate honor any athlete can achieve. When I went to my first Little Bridges rodeo in Bridger, Montana in 1964, I had no idea I would end up right here. I would like to thank the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo Committee for nominating me and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Committee for selecting me. Please bear with me. There's some people I have to thank, as they have all been instrumental in me being here today. First of all, my mom and dad, Bobby and Dan Munroe, and my sister Butch. Next of all, there was 2 families in Montana that took us to Little Bridges rodeos and high school rodeos before we could drive, and that's the Wagner and Grasky family. I only rode barebacks, like they said on the video, until I was 21. There's several Montanans who helped me learn to ride saddle broncs. Marvin Joyce, Larry Jordan, Bill Polly, Sean Davis, J.C. Bonine, Bill Smith, and Benny Reynolds. And I owe a lot to them, all of them. Growing up in Montana in the 70s, if you went to an RCA rodeo, it was Brookman or Kessler. And it wasn't much fun in those days, as they had lots of rank horses. In '86, when I won the world, of the 10 broncs I got on that year, 7 of them either belonged or were raised by either Kessler or Brookman. How I survived, I'll never know. I think I grew up in a very unique era of bronc riders, as there are 11 bronc riders and 5 all-around champions that also rode saddle broncs already enshrined over here in this hall. I had the unique opportunity to compete against them and to learn from them. I'd also like to thank my various traveling companions over the years. Many are here today to help celebrate this occasion with me. Rick Smith, Wilf and Mel Highland, Cleve Loney, Jim Jacobson, John Forbes, Clint Johnson, Buddy Pauly, Verlin Fairbanks, Dave Appleton, and of course my favorite traveling partner, and my partner in life, my wife Jibby. One of the greatest memories of for me is riding in the NFR with Jimmy. We'd circle around and stop and look up the stands and find our parents to wave to. It was really unique. I'll get back together here in a minute. Speaking of the NFR, Buddy Pauly and I were talking about it the other day, and we talked about the complexities and the nuances involved in winning the world. It's strange the World Championship can depend more on what somebody else does than actually what you do when you get into the average and everything else that happens. And the all-around race can even be more what happens in another event. One of my most memorable finals was my last one in 1988.
I missed part of the year with separated shoulder, along with Clint Johnson and Brad Munson kind of went down in kind of in the middle of the pack. After 9 rounds, we three had ridden all 9 horses, were set first, second, third in the average, first, second, third in the world. So basically, it came down to one head ride-off to see who won it all. I was very focused on my horse and getting ready on him and nervous, and he was a horse I'd never seen but one time before when he had 3-jump Kyle Winkle about 3 days earlier. Just as I was getting on, Dave Appleton, who was helping me, says, by the way, in his Aussie, Tex-Aussie voice, you need to be 75 points for me to win the all-around. Like I didn't already have enough pressure on me. Well, it didn't work out for me that day, but it did for Dave, and he was the all-around champion. Rodeo's been great for me and my family, as I know it's been for you. All I can tell you is riding your barrel horse up the alley, backing your time bend horse up in the box, or climbing over the chute in the rough stock in the 10th round at the NFR with everything on the line is the greatest thrill any athlete can ever have. All you can ever ask from your God is an opportunity to succeed. What you do with that opportunity is up to you and the talents He has given you. I would also like to thank my many good friends who have come from all parts of this country to share this special moment with me. Thanks again for this ultimate honor. It's been an overwhelming and humbling experience.
Stay with us, bud. Chairman of the board, Keith Martin. And I'm with Ashley Andrews to make a presentation of the bronze Montana silver buckle. ProRodeo Hall of Famer, Bud Munroe. Inducted this year in the notable category, one of the greatest and truest friends the sport of professional rodeo has ever had. This is Michael Gaughan.
Growing up in the hotel and casino industry may sound a long way from becoming a friend and champion of rodeo and cowboys, but that is exactly where Michael Gaughan's life has taken him. After graduating with a degree in accounting from Nebraska's Creighton University, Michael returned to Las Vegas. Michael learned the ropes and led the way in the hotel and casino business, following in the footsteps of his well-respected father, Jackie. From the El Cortez Hotel to the opening of the Royal Inn Casino, that became the launch pad for the Coast casinos. The Barbary Coast, followed by the Gold Coast, the Riverboat, the Orleans Hotel and Casino, the Sun Coast, and now the home to the National Finals Rodeo, Michael Gaughan's South Point. Michael was pivotal in bringing the National Finals Rodeo to Las Vegas in 1985.
As we open the final round of the 85 National Finals Rodeo, it's going to be a tight race. It looks like
not everyone was convinced that first year, but Michael clearly saw the future. The Las Vegas business community has been convinced. The NFR has had a $500 million impact on the economy, and the cowboys and rodeo community are convinced. The total purse at the NFR rose from $1.8 million to $5 million in the first 20 years. And Michael has been there as a member of the Las Vegas Events Board to make sure the prize money keeps increasing.
And the big guy on the far left is a former chairman of the board. He is also a member of the NFRC. Long-time great friend of Benny Binion, and he carries on Benny Binion's tradition of cowboy hospitality, Mr. Michael Gaughan.
Michael Gaughan continues to support the cowboys and the sport of rodeo. He serves on the Wrangler NFR committee and is a longtime and involved sponsor of the WNFR and the PRCA. It is for his love of rodeo, his dedication to the Wrangler NFR, and to the people of rodeo that we welcome Michael Gaughan into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees. I'm probably the lesser of the 9. It's a pleasure being up here with them. I have to thank Keith Martin and the board for getting me here. When I was told that I was getting inducted, I thought they were going to do me as a laborer. I've got a PRC labor card for 50 years, and I thought I was going to be the first. But you do not realize how great an honor this is. That I came here last night and once again walked through this hall and saw the people I'm with. I'm a fabulous bunch of people that this country's ever known. And to say that, like I said, once again, this is a great personal pleasure for me. I brought about 40 people up here. I will not announce them all, but I will say that I have my son Mike and John and their wives, Barbara and Sally. I have 5 grandchildren, Emily, Abigail, Johnny, Big Jake, and Gwyneth Rose here with me today. My son Brendan is racing in Kentucky tonight with a car with the PRC Hall of Fame rodeo banner on it. And he's hoping to win the race for me. I've been lucky. We're lucky. I've got to know cowboys such as, for example, Tough Edmund. I called him yesterday afternoon and said, "I'm coming up. You were here for mine. I'm coming in for yours." But I got to meet people over the years. The Ties, the Larry Shoulders, the Jim Shoulders, the Larry Mayans, the Mortensons, the Whitfields, the Beavers. They've all been friends of mine. They've all been very nice to me. I've also done a great job with the contractors. John Ronnie, Benny Butler, Harry Bowl, Cotton Foster, the Russells, Don Kish, Mike Serby, Porcos. They've all been very nice. The rodeo committees and the rodeos I've been to, I've been to a great number of rodeos once I got involved in this. And I've been anywhere from Cheyenne to Houston, Calgary, to Tucson, to Red Bluff, to San Antonio, and I've gone out and I even make the small. I've been to Enid, Oklahoma. I've been to Nephi, Utah. I've been to even Tehachapi, California, Joseph, Oregon. The rodeo world is a great place, both big and small. And being part of it has been very good. The reason I'm here is probably because of a fellow named Benny Binion. And contrary to popular belief, I was not the one that brought the rodeo to Las Vegas. Benny Binion brought the rodeo to Las Vegas. My involvement with the rodeo was that they used my airplane for 3 trips to Oklahoma City. About 2-3 years later, I got invited to join Las Vegas events out of the clear blue sky, and it was an 11-member board. And 4 members of that board, plus the executive director, got to be on the NFR committee, and everybody wanted to be on the NFR committee. On my second meeting, I was put on the NFR committee. Benny Binion had a long arm, and even today, I'm lucky that I have Benny Binion's granddaughter here with me, Becky Binion, his daughter, Becky Binion, his grandson, Steve Fexer, his grandson-in-law, Clint Johnson, who joined me today. I always thought that Benny, after I figured out, was that he got the rodeo to Las Vegas and he expected me to keep there. And I think of managed to do that over the years. Las Vegas and the world of rodeo has been a marriage. And we've got ups and we've had downs. But for the most part, it has been very, very good for the world of rodeo and very, very good for Las Vegas. In closing, I want to thank some people. I got to play being a cowboy because of my wife. My wife and my daughter, Kate, are the real cowboys of the family. They take care of horses, they raise horses, they show horses, they feed horses, and they clean up after horses. I just go to work every day. Once again, I'd like to say that it has been a great pleasure being here, and thank you all.
We give you ProRodeo Hall of Famer Michael Gaughan of Las Vegas, Nevada. The next inductee is in the stock category, one of the most feared, one of the greatest bucking bulls in the history of our great sport. The inductee is Skoal Pacific Bell.
They called him the bull that does it all. And that is exactly what Skoal Pacific Bell did every time he burst into an arena.
Get out, get away, get away. Man. Now there, he looked like a bad bull.
With 1,750 pounds of bucking power, there was little cowboys could do to control this rare specimen. Skoal Pacific Bell was raised on the Russell Ranch at Folsom, California. The name Pacific Bell came at age 4, when the Russells noticed the bull tossing its head in such a manner that it wanted to reach out and touch someone. This Brangus was the only bull ever named Bull of the Year in 3 consecutive years. He was also selected as the top bull at the 1987 National Finals Rodeo. In the short span of 4 years, this keg of dynamite was ridden to the whistle only 5 times in 150 outings.
And he's on the Bull of the Year, Skoal Pacific Bell of the Dan Russell String out there in Folsom, California.
There were big awards when a rider managed to stay on. Just watch Jim Sharp in 1988.
Let's go. Jim Sharp, Herman, Texas. Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy.
You may be right, Jody. Good call, Jody.
Sharp walked off with the first of 2 world championships thanks to Skoal Pacific Bell. Skoal Pacific Bell was a crowd pleaser and a cowboy challenger. It is with this in mind that we welcome Skoal Pacific Bell into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
It gives us, the Russell family, a very honor to be here today to talk about Pacific Bell. We was just the lucky ones to own a great bull like that. I got to give thanks to my dad. He's the one that started us in the business, and he raised the bull. Tough Head and I talked about it last night. I was the one that hauled him and got him where he needed to be. But I don't know how to talk about the bull. He's just a great one. The rodeo business is probably the best business a person could be in. If I was a rancher, it's all I'd know is where you go get your grain or hay. Rodeos, you get to meet everybody. You have more friends. It's just amazing the people that help you. And I'm not a very good talker. But I'm gonna let my wife do a little talking and my son, because it's all about Western rodeos.
I want to tell you that all of our friends are in the rodeo business. Recently, we moved our breeding program to Oklahoma and raising more baby bells. And We love staying at home, but we get to missing our friends. I have followed this family up and down the road now for 23 years. Mud and dirt and getting to wear a dress has all been a part of it. And I can't function without our friends and family, and we feel that rodeo is our family. So thank you very much for this honor for this bull. He's well deserving, and it makes us very proud to be a part of a group that is already there ahead of us, paving the way. Thank you.
It is the Russell family with Western Rodeos Incorporated. They gave us the great one, Skoal Pacific Bell, three-time world champion bucking bull, forever enshrined now in our ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Many fans come and watch professional rodeo and they cheer for the cowboys and the bucking bulls like those that you've met. But oftentimes there are those that are overlooked that do so much behind the scenes to make everything that happens in the arena worthwhile and memorable. Our next inductee is going to go into the contract personnel category, and we are honoring the rodeo secretary, Dorothy Apodaca.
She was a woman who loved rodeo, and most of all, rodeo people. Dorothy Apodaca devoted 22 years of her life to working literally in the shadows of the rodeo. From 1948 through 1970, she traveled the nation as a rodeo secretary. For 6 months every year, she would cover some 30,000 miles and handle entries and payouts at some of the biggest rodeos. In 1958, she was among a select group to demonstrate rodeo to a new audience by traveling to the World's Fair in Belgium. In 1966, Dorothy was secretary at the first rodeo in the Houston Astrodome. And when she retired in 1970, Dorothy's name went up on the famed original Astrodome scoreboard as committee members of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo honored her. Dorothy was not alone on the rodeo circuit. Much of the time, she was accompanied by her husband, Jim, who entered steer wrestling and worked as a pickup man. Dorothy endeared herself to the cowboys with her quick wit. Often, a cowboy down on his luck would just hang out in the secretary's office and have a good laugh with Dorothy. For her years of service and her dedication to the cowboys and the sport of rodeo, Dorothy Apodaca joins the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Thank you. It's good to be here today. I want to thank the selection committee for seeing their way selecting Dorothy for this honor. I know she's smiling down on us today. It is a proud day for her, for me, her family, and friends. Dorothy was involved in rodeo before electric typewriters and computers. She got her start in 1948 in Strong City, Kansas, where she was attending a rodeo as a spectator. When the regular secretary did not show, one of the contractors asked if anyone there could type. Dorothy said she could and was hired on the spot. When that rodeo was over, she was offered the job the rest of the season and the following year. The contractors were E.C. and Ken Roberts. In 1950 and 51, she worked at the Rodeo Cowboys Association office in Denver. While there, she got acquainted with most of the cowboys through the records. She also learned the rule book of the Cowboys Association. From then on, she made sure that the rules were followed at rodeos she worked. During the 2 years she worked there,
She would serve as arena secretary at some of the weekend rodeos in and around Denver. From 1952 through 1957, she worked for Butler Brothers of Elk City, Oklahoma. In 1958, she went to Brussels, Belgium, with the World's Fair and Wild West Show as secretary, bookkeeper, and chaperone of 50 Sioux Indians. She had her hands full of that travel. Vern Elliott was a producer. In 1959, she started a 12-year stint with Harry Knight that ended in 1970 when Knight sold out to Harry Vode and Bill Minnick. She also served as a rodeo secretary for the National Finals in Dallas, Texas in 1960. Dorothy covered a lot of miles on the rodeo trail, and she wore many hats in the years that she was rodeo secretary, timer, banker, general babysitter. She helped a lot of rodeo participants get started on the right foot and was dedicated and efficient professional. She was a friend to all the cowboys and cowgirls and felt a special bond to rodeo families. Dorothy was not afraid to share her experience. She trained a lot of up-and-coming rodeo secretaries and timers, giving them support and encouragement all the way. She was dedicated to rodeo and she always was happy to give the new contestants help with entries and showing them the ropes. She was also very willing to work with the local news media to promote up-and-coming events and the Western way of life. She would have the day's scores and times for them as well as the go-round final winner. She's a darn good cook, too. There were a lot of hard times during the early years, but also a lot of good times, and good friends just can't be beat. Dorothy died March 20th, 1992. She is not forgotten. Thank you again for this honor. It is my privilege to accept in her behalf.
Receiving the honor on behalf of Dorothy Apodaca, contract personnel inductee in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Our next inductee will be inducted into the notable category, and to simply call him a veterinarian would be the understatement of the year. As you're about to see, this doctor is so much more than that. Dr. Doug Corey, our next inductee.
The Pendleton Roundup is about as good a place as any, if not the best place, to learn the sport of rodeo. And that is where Doug Corey grew up. He had no idea at the time that he would go on to be one of the most respected names in veterinary medicine, let alone a noted equine practitioner and advisor to the sport of rodeo. This respected veterinarian has authored various guides to veterinary service at PRCA rodeos and is on the PRCA Animal Welfare Committee. Dr. Corey operates the Associated Veterinary Medical Center in Walla Walla, Washington. He has been named Oregon Veterinarian of the Year and President of the American Association of Equine Practitioners. Dr. Corey helped implement PRCA policies, including the regulation that requires a veterinarian and a livestock ambulance to be present at every professional rodeo. You'll find Doug Corey at each Wrangler National Finals performance, carefully watching the action. And he continues to be one of rodeo's best advocates, lobbying for rule changes to benefit livestock and educate contestants on the importance of animal welfare. And Dr. Corey is state active in the Pendleton Roundup, where he volunteers and served as president. for his contribution to animal welfare and helping to craft better guidelines and programs over the past 25 years. We welcome Doug Corey into the Hall of Fame.
Animal welfare is a choice, and I am extremely pleased that the PRCA has made it a top priority. I'm proud of the PRCA for recognizing that animal welfare is an issue that will affect all of us that enjoy and want to continue to enjoy rodeo, our Western heritage, and our traditions. The PRCA as an organization has been willing to accept change. As times have changed, so have the acceptance and the tolerance of the public. Things we used to do may no longer be acceptable today. Much progress has been made in the rodeo world, but we can always improve. In my opinion, we have the best animal welfare program in the country, probably in the world. We can set the standards, we can set the guidelines, and we can set the bar high, but talk is only so good. We have to produce and show that we take animal welfare seriously. Don't be afraid to get involved, because this is your sport. Support it and protect it. Animal welfare is the biggest issue affecting rodeo today. The future of rodeo depends on how we treat our livestock. This is a tremendous honor, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my volunteer efforts with the PRCA and the sport of rodeo. It has been a wonderful relationship over the past 26 years. A challenge attracts me, and working with the PRCA on animal welfare issues, believe me, has been a true challenge and an experience. A dedication to the improvement and treatment and care of our rodeo animal athletes. This award I take great pride in sharing with you, the spectators, the committees, the contestants, the stock contractors, the sponsors, and of course the PRCA staff who I've worked closely with for many years. Without the willingness of all entities involved, none of this would be possible. And it will take all of us to continue to improve this great sport. You know, I don't really have any real war stories to tell, no world championships. A lot of my things that I have done relate to traveling and going into some legislative hearings and courtrooms. 1 year and 2 months, I made 7 trips to San Francisco to represent the PRCA and the sport of rodeo that try to continue to keep rodeo in the Cow Palace. And that's about as exciting as it gets for me. I would like to thank the selection committee for this really incredible honor. I also need to thank my wife, Heather, 31 years, my daughter, Sydney, and my son, Bobby, for always being there for me and supporting me and for putting up with me being gone. A lot of times in what the sports news is called a labor of love. I'm not sure I really recognize it as that, but I think it's true. And also to the rest of my family that's here, my brother and sister, Steve and Susan, and all of my other friends that are here that have given me a lot of support. In addition, I think I need to recognize the AAEP, the American Association of Equine Practitioners, our executive director, David Foley, who is here with me, and it's nice to have him. In addition, something that's been very dear to me over the years is the Pendleton Roundup. And obviously to me, I think it's probably the best rodeo in the country. It's darn sure the most unique. And for all of the support they have given me over all of the years, and it's nice to have the board of directors here today with me to support me in this. Doc Etienne, a true friend and a mentor who has helped me since day one here and has always been there and willing to try different avenues with me. Believe me, rodeo would not be where it is today without Doc's tireless efforts. And to our animal welfare coordinator, and to my knowledge, the only one in the country, and probably one of the best decisions the PRC has ever made in dealing with animal welfare issues. We've had two in 15 years, Terry Greer, and of course Cindy Schonholtz now for the past 10 years. Cindy is the real workhorse behind our animal welfare program. Someone we can all call if we need to. And we would not be here today without the daily guidance from Cindy. She is a very recognized person in the animal industry, and it's nice to say when I see people that Cindy is with the PRCA. And to Keith Martin, interim commissioner, treasurer, chairman of the board, and a great friend. He's always there to keep me in check and to visit about rodeo issues. And believe me, if you know Keith, he always wants you to agree with him, but we don't always agree. Finally, to Brian McDonald. And many of you might ask, why an ex-bull rider? Brian had the foresight 26 years ago to realize that there was going to be an animal welfare issue affecting rodeo. Brian and I were judging a Miss Rodeo Oregon contest at the time, I think. Brian asked me if I would be involved or want to be involved with the PRCA. I said, Brian, I don't even know what animal welfare and animal rights are. Could you explain it to me? I'm not sure Brian really could. And needless to say, I did learn what animal rights and animal welfare were. And I sure didn't think I would be involved this long when I started. This award is a highlight of my life and the recognition of hard work by a number of people. The rodeo world and the rodeo people are a great family, and it is nice to be a part of this real Western spirit. I want to thank everybody and congratulate all of the other inductees, and thank you very much.
Tireless advocate for the health and the welfare of animals in the industry of professional rodeo, inducted into the notable category. The next inductee is a contestant and a cowboy. He'll be going in as a team roper. The next inductee is team roper Joe Glenn.
Qualifying for the National Finals Rodeo 7 times in team roping would be considered an accomplishment by any measure. However, doing it over a period of 22 years is a record. And Joe Glenn qualified in the 40s and went to his last NFR in 1970 at age 56. During his career, Joe Glenn stood out as an elite athlete. His abilities were legendary, and he was the poster cowboy for the sport of team roping. Joe Glenn got his start working with his father, Will, who was a top steer roper in the 1920s. He taught Joe how to rope on the family ranch in Cochise County, Arizona. In 1929, at age 14, Joe Glenn entered his first rodeo. In 1935, he became a member of the Rodeo Cowboys Association and roped at the Phoenix Rodeo. Joe qualified for the NFR 7 times. He had 7 top 5 finishes in the world standings and 2 second-place finishes in 1959 and 1968. However, Joe Glenn will be remembered for his world championships in 1948 and 1967. For his long career and his world marks, we welcome Joe Glenn into the Hall of Fame.
Joe's induction into the Hall of Fame. I'm sure he would have been very proud to be here. Of course, there are always people who are behind the scenes that you don't really see they're the people that allow a lot of these cowboys to pursue their dreams. In this case, my dad Joe's ranch down there, there were some other ranchers, George and Gary McBride, and also Margaret Warner Glenn, that would take care of the ranch, make sure that everything was okay so he could pursue his dreams. Of course, someone else that needs to be mentioned, his lifelong friend, the first hitter when he won the first championship, Fred Ronnie, Ronnie, New Mexico. He and his son Bill rodeoed with my dad Joe for a long time, and all were great friends. His last hitter was a little fellow from Buckeye, Arizona, Art Arnold, who, well, I don't know if you do, but my memory of Art was probably had the fastest hand from a square knot of anybody I'd ever seen. Donnie Kimball, who is responsible for Joe's nomination into the Hall of Fame. I wish to thank all these people from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
This is a great one. 4 different decades. Joe Glenn, forever enshrined. ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Bull riding is a competition that naturally grabs your attention the minute it happens, and there are bull riders that win your heart. This is one of them. Your next inductee goes in the bull riding category, and it's Ronnie Rossen.
Ronnie Rossen's friend said he was the type of guy they make movies about, fictional movies. But Rossen was the real thing. He was originally from Nebraska and made his way to Montana working on ranches and riding rank horses and bulls. And in 1956, he joined the Rodeo Cowboys Association. Rossen's brutal, never-give-up approach was what separated him from many bull riders. At his first NFR in 1959, Ronnie was hit by a bull and broke his jaw. The jaw was wired shut, and he stayed in the competition into the final round.
And he's in there now with the broken jaw. And he goes the route. Get away from that one if you can. This boy is hung up in the rope, and it's not going to be easy.
Ronnie Rossen went on to 7 more NFR appearances. He won the Gold Buckle in 1961 and 1966. He won the NFR Average twice in 1964 and 1965. Ronnie rode bulls for 40 years. He was a 7-time National Old Timers Association champion. Ronnie Rossen's life ended in the rodeo arena. He died after completing what was the day's winning ride. In an interview, Ronnie once told a reporter, "I just went out there with the idea of don't let go. That's probably why I have so many scars on my face. I never let go when I should have." Ronnie Rossen held on for 35 years in the rodeo arena, and we welcome him into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
I didn't think this was going to be that emotional this morning, coming up here. It's a pretty tough crowd to follow here. What an honor. I want to start out with saying good morning, friends of rodeo. On behalf of my dad and all my family, the Rossen family, I want to thank the association and all involved for this tremendous honor. And if Dad are still with us, I can only imagine what he might say. And I'm sure it left him a little hungry.
humbled and honoring. But he'd probably start by saying, you know, for Christ's sake, Gene Autry. And wouldn't maybe be speechless. What I'd like to share really is some of my fondest memories I had growing up. Being the son of a world champion bull rider, it was quite an experience. Since I was big enough to carry his ring bag, I'd be with him behind the chutes, getting his rope ready. To when I was a little bigger, being his driver or his chauffeur. And then there's a time my sister Talon and I went to Houston. I'm thinking it was around 75 or 76. We got to meet Chris Ledoux, and he was just promoting his music business. Then in '83, I was 16 years old, and one of the many times I got to go with Dad, when my mom would reluctantly let me go with him. There was a Denver stock show that winter. I couldn't wait to get home and tell my friends about that, being with Jim Shoulders and Walt Garrison at the Hilton, drinking a beer. Of course, I had to have a Coke. And then that summer, the Cheyenne Frontier Days, you can imagine a 16-year-old boy pretty well unsupervised in an event like that. That was something. Mom and Dad had a classic love-hate relationship. On more than one occasion, Mom would express her dissatisfaction about my dad, and turn right around to somebody who might have been inquiring about his riding abilities, and she'd say, he's so good he can ride him backwards. And she'd say that I've been told he's one of the most imitated bull riders there ever was. I did it for a while in high school, and thought, you know, I need to make my own name in the world, but it was fun. But I'd like to leave here with just saying I can't think of anyone in this business who has sacrificed, you know, it's unparalleled how much my dad sacrificed for the sport. Personally, bull riding as an occupation and way of life. I got a couple more. Before Dad died, he was 54 when he did pass. Top, you know. And he went out of this world doing what he loved, riding bulls. And up till that time, while he was in the NOTRA, the National Towns Road Association, I'd often ask him, about every time he'd call, I said, Dad, when the hell are you going to quit this? You know, you're getting too damn old. And he'd always reply, you know, when there's a bull that I think is too rank that I can't handle, I'll turn him out. I don't think there ever was at that category to him. I think he felt like he could ride any bull that was ever bred. But again, on behalf of the Rossen family, I want to thank the whole association, everybody here today, whoever made this possible, for this tremendous honor. It's been a great experience. Thank you.
Your experience watching the Rossen ride. Bull riding category. Hall of Famer Ronnie Rossen. The next inductee is also a cowboy, and the competition is steer roping. He's a cowboy's cowboy. Hall of Famer Jim Davis.
When you start competing at age 7 and get your PRCA card 10 years later, you're probably destined for recognition. Jim Davis had a rope in his hand from the day he could walk. He never stopped practicing and went on to be one of the most consistent steer ropers in history.
And you got to give this guy all the credit in the world.
12-5 is official 12.5.
Davis's father, Merle, who went to the NFR in 1959, took Jim and his brother Lee to rodeos every summer. It was how Jim Davis learned the trials and tribulations of the sport. It also earned him scholarships to Casper Junior College and the University of Southern Colorado. Jim qualified for the National Finals Rodeo 19 times. He won back-to-back world championships in 1985 and 1986.
Champion of the world is Jim Davis.
And when he wasn't the champion, he was second in the world standings in 1987, 88, 94, and 97.
Now, upcoming is the world's champion, Jim Davis. He's second in the overall through 5. Roped as solid last night as a man could possibly rope. Man, these pros make it look so easy, don't they? Indeed they do, and we got another 10 on our hands.
Jim has been a horse trainer and steer roping contractor for many years. Jim Davis will always be known for his approach to the sport, always consistent. And for that consistency, we welcome Jim Davis into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
First of all, I'd like to thank God, family, and a special group of friends here today that came to support me. It's a great honor to be included in this class of 07. I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for even considering someone like me being in this Hall of Fame. It's a great honor. Rodeo's been a great part of my life. My father was a rodeo cowboy, a steer roper. My son is. And you know, I've gone through the Hall of Fame earlier and see such great people like Everett Shaw, Guy Allen, Sonny Davis in the steer roper category that I'm one of those guys. You know, steer roping started in Clayton, New Mexico in 1959 and then went through the Lazy E at Guthrie with Mr. Ed Gaylord, which was a great sponsor and held to our event, and is now in Hobbs, New Mexico, where it's presently held. I want to thank some special people here today. My fiance, Cindy Bird, my children, Samantha, Sheridan, and Bryce. I have some friends that traveled a long ways to come here and see me, and one I really want to thank is probably my boss. That way I'll have a job when I get home, is Butch Nelson and his wife. And, thank you very, very much for having me. This is a special honor.
World champion steer roper, newest inductee, steer roping category, Jim Davis. Our final inductee of this ceremony is a man who will be inducted in the Specialty Act category. He's a consummate professional. He's the king of comedy, the greatest funny man I've ever had the opportunity of working with. This is Lecile Harris.
For over 50 years, Lecile Harris has epitomized the role of rodeo clown and bullfighter. What started as a short-lived career as bull rider and fill-in bullfighter turned into one of the best-known acts in the sport. Lecile Harris has done and seen it all. His is a story that was influenced by the likes of Emmett Kelly, W.C. Fields, and Laurel and Hardy. And with Lecile, you just can't forget the face.
Dust your seat off. Yes, sir. I can do that. Now, the car seat. You're going to have to be more specific. Okay.
The face has been part of his act since 1955, when he filled in as an emergency replacement in Mississippi. The only makeup available was some lipstick and shoe polish from a drugstore. Lecile was not always headed for a career in rodeo. He was a football player at the University of Tennessee, Martin, and a drummer in Memphis in the 1950s. Lecile Harris is known for his timing and his moves.
It's like, when you hit
Lecile spent 5 years on the famed Hee Haw series and had been featured in other television shows and in films. The rodeo community and the fans have always taken a liking to Lecile. He's been honored as Clown of the Year in 1992, 1994, 1995, and 1996. It is with a big smile that we welcome the Dean of Rodeo Clowns and Bullfighters, Lecile Harris, into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. One thing I'm glad of, we've already had 3 grown cowboys cry up here, so that takes the pressure off of me. I can do that if I want to. I noticed before we were waiting in what most people call the green room, up there they called it the holding pen. Everybody was making their little speeches out, and I had a piece of paper with nothing on it, and I thought, well, I'm last, which by the way made me feel really good. Except when I found out I was last, I have a really bad habit of picking up people's dialects and their speech patterns. I was just hoping, praying to God I didn't follow Michael Gaughan. Y'all would have been here a while. Be kind of like I called one of those 900 numbers the other day, and I got a girl that talked like him, cost me $340. Hear what you have to say. So I thought what I'll do is just take a little bit out of everybody's. They're little good high spots and put them in mine, but then they're talking about stuff I don't know anything about. So then I had to sit over and make notes during this. Number one, I want to thank Dr. Dale Knobs for nominating me and the committee for going along with what he thought they needed to do. If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't be here. My family. First of all, my wife, Ethel. Her name's really not Tundra. I know a lot of y'all think it is. That's my clown wife. You see her, obviously she's not Tundra. She is the hardest person in the world to tell a comedy story to, or a joke. And she's the first one I try. If I've got some new material, I tell it to her, and if she understands it, anybody can get it. Her and her sisters have this joke about a banana. I never understood it, ever. Something about a banana in your ear. Banana, I can't hear it. It's the most stupid joke I've heard, and they get together and just laugh. So I thought, well, there's my first hurdle. If I can get over that hurdle with her, then what I have to say they can understand. My son, Matt, who is probably in my mind the best barrel man that ever crawled in a barrel in the rodeo arena. My family is full of talent, so I really had to hump up to do something. He works the other end of my acts. All of the other people in my acts that you see, the robot, the ladies, the whatever, he really loves that lady job, I'll tell you that. And all of those things he does, and he does with perfection. He can gather a character, and he makes my job so easy. All I have to do is just be funny. He can just go ahead and he takes on the straight parts. But if it hadn't been for Matt, my career would have probably been shortened a long time ago. I want to thank you, Matt. Chuck, my second son is a professional drummer, an outstanding drummer. I was a drummer in the music business for years and years and kept playing until he started playing, and I got so sick of listening to him, I quit. He's got to be one of the most outstanding drummers I've ever heard. My daughter, Christy, she is super talent. She traveled with the Beach Boys as their lead dancer for 3 years. She's just an outstanding athlete, super softball player, and she's married to Donnie Lalonde. I always said, when she got married, I said, whoever she marries, buddy, he's going to have to answer to me. I'm going to make sure he walks the line. She married Donnie Lalonde, light heavyweight champion of the world. obviously he says whatever he wants to say. I have 4 grandchildren, Justin, Indy, Dylan, and Bailey. And there's some other friends here. Jeffrey is here from Arkansas. Lisa from Arkansas is here. I even saw Mr. Keebler. He makes my favorite cookies. I see him back there. Y'all will recognize him with the little beard. Hangs out in trees. There's 2 people I want to mention that started out with me 20 years ago. They were like 15 years old. Bishop Arnold from Alabama, he's here. He came all the way to surprise me by being here. He did the other end of my axe and helped me drive and everything, even when he was 15. And Albert Puritt, those 2 guys started out with me on the front end and stayed with me. I've also promised the judges of all people that I had to thank them and show them recognition for all of these years, all of the material that I've used on them. They think that if I hadn't been for the judges that I would have never made it in this career. I do pick on them pretty regular, and the queens, I might add. Oh, what a nice way to make a living. There's one guy here, 20 years ago, I worked mostly on the East Coast. This guy, he's already in the Hall of Fame, Cajun Kid. DJ is just, he was an idol of mine. He used to work my hometown rodeo in Memphis. I used to come in from a rodeo wherever I was to try to catch the Sunday afternoon matinee so I could watch Cajun. Go back to his dressing room and visit with him. Cajun got ready to retire. And he called me in and he said, Lecile, do you have, I want that golf act you had. Golf had just begun to pick up, and I thought, well, that's something that people could relate to, so I built a comedy golf act. He said, what about that golf act? So you reckon I could borrow that for a year to retire on? Said, I need something to retire on. I said, yeah. I said, and it just tickled me to death that Cajun would want anything of mine, let alone one of my acts. So I told him, I said, I'll come down there Sunday, I'll bring the act bring it down there early. I'll go through it with you. And then you can work it during that performance. And I'll help you out all the way through the deal, trying to get you straight on it. Well, that's my kind of time in their train. Anyway, Cajun took the act. I went through a few parts of it. He took that act in the arena that afternoon, worked it better than I ever had worked it, and I had been working it about 3 years. So I thought, what I need to do is sit up here, keep my mouth shut, learn from Cajun, and I've been working the act ever since. There's so many people that have influenced my career. A lot of them are comedians and comics over the period of years that I watched on television and in person. But my own character kind of took over. And that hillbilly redneck that I really am to begin with, what you see here is kind of facade. I really am that, and it's no problem for me to do it. I just try to do it with the type timing that people can pick up on and enjoy. I have my daughter, she's such an inspiration on me. She keeps pushing me and letting me know, that you can't lay down. By the way, I'm not retiring just because I'm going here. I got lots of bills to pay. When I was 70 years old, she talked me into getting my granddaughter gave me a tattoo for my birthday, 70 years old. Said, Dad, you need to make a statement. And the biggest statement, I have an uncle, my Uncle Vic. He's from Alabama. And he's 94 years old. He can still cut a cord of wood a day by himself. The other day I invited him to a rodeo, and he came there and a 36-year-old girl with him. I I said, Uncle Vic, what's the deal with the young chick? He said, well, the doctor told me to find me a hot mama and be cheerful. I said, no, Uncle Vic, the doctor told you you had a heart murmur. Be careful. I said, aren't you afraid of a heart attack or something? He said, heck, she dies, she dies. Thank y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, rodeo clown, rodeo of the comedy, Hall of Famer Lecile. It has been a special ceremony inducting 9 very special people into our Hall of Fame. I'm going to ask you one more time, a resounding round of applause for the newest class, Hall of Fame.